Nice car. Where'd you get it?
Afternoon, officer. It's mine. Just filling up.
Yours, huh? Don't see too many guys like you in $500,000 rolls. You borrow it or steal it?
No, sir. Paid for and registered in my name.
Must be some hustle to afford this.
It's called a salary.
Yeah, right.
That was a mistake. Within 36 hours, this gas station confrontation would explode across social media with 1.8 million views, cost the officer 5 years in federal prison, and trigger an $11.5 million lawsuit that would shake an entire police department. But the body cam recording this exchange didn't activate until 4 minutes into the stop. Officer Trevor Dawson had 11 prior complaints in his file, 7 alleging racial profiling, none ever addressed. And the judge standing at that pump had lost his 19-year-old nephew 7 years earlier in a traffic stop with no body cam, no footage, no justice. Before we continue, comment where you are watching from. If this is your first time here, subscribe. Stories like this need to be exposed. Shell Station Highway 27, Charlotte outskirts. Judge Marcus Coleman had just left his chambers after a 14-hour session presiding over State versus Officer Jenkins, a police misconduct case involving unlawful search and excessive force. He pulled into pump number 4. Across the lot, Officer Trevor Dawson's cruiser slowed. His eyes locked onto the black Rolls-Royce. Then the driver. His shoulders squared. His jaw tightened. He didn't run the plates. He didn't call it in. He simply turned the wheel and cut across 2 parking spaces, blocking the Rolls from the front. Coleman noticed the movement. He glanced up from the fuel pump, his expression calm, waiting. Dawson stepped out. No greeting, no explanation. Just a slow walk around the vehicle, one hand resting near his belt, eyes scanning like he'd found something that didn't belong. Coleman finished filling the tank. He capped it, reached into the glove box, and pulled out his registration and insurance documents. Both current, both valid. He held them out as Dawson approached. The officer didn't look at them. "Where'd you steal this?" Coleman exhaled slowly. "I didn't steal anything. These are my documents." Dawson waved them away. "Yeah, I'll check those later." He didn't. What Dawson didn't realize was that 3 security cameras mounted across the station canopy had been recording since the moment the Rolls pulled in. Inside the convenience store, the attendant, a former Marine named Luis Herrera, stood near the window watching. At pump 6, a family of 4 paused mid-transaction, the father quietly pulling out his phone. The engine hum faded. The fuel pump clicked off. Everything was being recorded. Dawson thumbed the radio clip to his shoulder. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I've got a suspected stolen vehicle at the Shell Station Highway 27. Black Rolls-Royce, drivers being uncooperative. Requesting backup." Coleman's head tilted slightly. "Officer, that's a false report. I've offered you my registration twice." Dawson ignored him. He circled the Rolls again, slower this time, running his palm across the hood like he was inspecting evidence at a crime scene. Then came the click. A small red light blinked on near Dawson's chest. The body cam. 4 minutes into the stop, it finally activated. Coleman noticed immediately. "Why is your camera just turning on now?" The footage had already started without him. 2 minutes later, a second patrol car pulled into the lot. Officer Kyle Mills stepped out, 26 years old, 2 years on the force. Dawson waved him over, his voice low but firm. "Stolen vehicle. Drivers giving me attitude, won't comply." Mills glanced at Coleman. Dress shirt, tie, hands visible, calm posture, no raised voice, no aggression. His brow furrowed slightly, but he said nothing. Something didn't match. Dawson walked to the rear of the Rolls and gripped the trunk handle. "Open it." Coleman stepped forward. "You don't have probable cause to search my vehicle. I've got reasonable suspicion." "Based on what?" Dawson didn't answer. He looked at Mills. "Pop it." Mills hesitated. His hand hovered near the release button inside the cruiser. He looked at Coleman again, then back at Dawson. Finally, he pressed it. The trunk lid lifted with a soft hiss. Inside sat 3 manila folders, each labeled in clean black print, State of North Carolina versus Officer Derek Jenkins, police misconduct case. Dawson stared at the files, his jaw tightened. Mills leaned in closer, reading the labels. His posture shifted. Shoulders dropped, eyes widened. He was defending someone like us. From inside the convenience store, Luis Herrera, the attendant, stepped outside. He crossed his arms and called out, "Sir, I've seen him here plenty of times. He's always polite, always pays." There's no issue. Dawson turned sharply. This is an active stop. Get back inside. I'm just saying. I said get inside. Herrera didn't move. He pulled out his phone instead. At pump 6, the father who'd been filling his minivan did the same. A woman near the air pump lifted her phone toward the scene. 3 cameras, 3 witnesses, 3 new angles. Dawson didn't notice, or he didn't care. Coleman's voice stayed level, steady, deliberate. Officer Dawson, what you're doing right now violates the Fourth Amendment protections against unlawful search and seizure. Under Terry versus Ohio, you need reasonable, articulable suspicion of criminal activity. You have none. Dawson scoffed. Don't lecture me on procedure. I'm not lecturing. I'm informing you of the law you're breaking. You got a law degree. I have 19 years on the bench as a superior court judge. Dawson blinked. His hand froze mid-reach toward his cuffs, but instead of stepping back, he leaned in. Then you should know better than to lie to a cop. Mills stepped between them, his voice quieter now. Sir, maybe we should verify his ID first. I already told you he's uncooperative. He gave you his registration. Could be fake. Then let's run it. Dawson's eyes flashed. I'm handling this. But the doubt in Mills' face told a different story. He wasn't sure anymore. And the cameras caught that too. At this point, 12 minutes had passed since Dawson first blocked the rolls. 12 minutes of assumptions. 12 minutes of ignored documents. 12 minutes of a judge being treated like a suspect at a gas pump where he'd stopped hundreds of times before. And every second was being recorded. Coleman stood still, hands at his sides, his breathing controlled. He didn't shout. He didn't move aggressively. He simply waited, knowing that the longer this continued, the deeper Dawson dug himself into a hole he couldn't climb out of. The overhead lights buzzed. A car pulled into the lot, slowed and turned around. Another witness gone. But 3 phones still recorded. The station cameras still rolled. And the body cam Dawson activated 4 minutes too late still blinked red, capturing every word he couldn't take back. Dawson reached for his cuffs. Mills took a step back, his hand hovering near his own radio, uncertainty written across his face. Coleman exhaled once slow and steady. Officer, you're making a career-ending mistake. Dawson's fingers tightened around the metal. He didn't stop. Hands behind your back. Coleman didn't move. On what grounds? Obstruction of justice. Mills stepped forward. Sir, maybe we should verify. I gave you an order, Mills. Back up. The younger officer hesitated. His hand dropped. He stepped back. Dawson pulled the cuffs from his belt. Coleman turned slowly, his movements deliberate, controlled. He placed his hands behind his back. No resistance, no argument, just compliance documented on camera. The metal clicked. Once, twice, locked. The sound echoed across the parking lot. A mother at pump 6 covered her mouth. Her husband kept filming. Luis Herrera stood frozen near the store entrance, phone raised. A truck driver walking toward the restroom stopped mid-step. 7 witnesses, 7 phones, 7 people who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Dawson tightened the cuffs. Mills approached carefully. Sir, I need to see your ID. Coleman nodded toward his jacket. Inside pocket, wallet. Mills reached in and pulled out a black leather bifold. He opened it. His eyes scanned the card inside. Then he read it aloud, his voice quieter now, uncertain. Honorable Marcus Coleman, North Carolina Superior Court Judge. The lot went silent. Dawson snatched the wallet from Mills's hands. He stared at the ID, the state seal, the embossed lettering, the photograph matching the man standing in cuffs in front of him. Could be fake. Mills blinked. Sir, that's a state-issued credential. It has. I said it could be fake. The body cam caught every word. Career suicide documented in real time. Coleman stood still, wrists locked behind him, the metal biting into his skin. His mind drifted for a moment, not to anger but to memory. 7 years earlier, a different gas station, a different officer. His nephew Darius, 19 years old, pulled over for a broken taillight that wasn't broken. No body cam, no footage, no witnesses who spoke up. Just a mother's grief and a case file that went nowhere because there was no evidence to prove what everyone already knew. Coleman had spent 7 years wondering if he could have done something, said something, changed something. And now, standing in cuffs at a gas pump with cameras recording every angle, He understood something he hadn't before this moment wasn't just about him. It was about every black man who'd stood in this exact position without a camera, without a voice, without someone willing to say enough. This ends with me. Dawson's radio crackled. Unit 12, this is Sergeant Hayes. What's your status? Mills grabbed his own radio before Dawson could respond. Sergeant, we've detained someone at the Shell station. His ID says he's a judge. A pause. Static. Then Hayes's voice sharper now. Say again. Superior Court Judge Marcus Coleman. Another pause. Longer this time. Run that ID through Central Dispatch. Now. Mills pulled out his phone and typed quickly. 30 seconds later, the screen lit up. He read it once, then again. His face went pale. It's confirmed. He's a sitting judge. 19 years on the bench. Hayes's voice cut through the radio firm and direct. Release him immediately. Do you copy? Dawson stared at the cuffs, at Coleman, at the cameras pointing toward him from every direction. He didn't move. Officer Dawson, do you copy? Release him now. Dawson's hand hovered near his belt. The keys dangled from a small ring. He looked at Mills, then at Coleman. Then at the body cam light, still blinking red on his chest. He left the cuffs on. Defiance recorded in high definition. 23 minutes after Dawson first blocked the Rolls-Royce, Coleman was walked across the parking lot toward the patrol car. His hands still cuffed, his head still high, his steps steady and measured. The mother at Pump 6 turned her children away. The truck driver shook his head. Luis Herrera kept recording, his jaw clenched tight. Coleman didn't fight. He didn't shout. He simply said loud enough for the body cam to catch, loud enough for the phones to capture, loud enough for history to remember. Every second of this is being recorded. Dawson opened the patrol car door. Coleman stepped inside. The door slammed shut. And in that moment, with 7 witnesses watching 3 station cameras rolling and a body cam that had activated 4 minutes too late, Officer Trevor Dawson sealed his fate. Not with violence, not with malice, with arrogance. 23 minutes later, inside Brookside Station, Sergeant Daniel Hayes met them at the booking desk. He took one look at Coleman, still in cuffs, and his expression hardened. Hayes pulled the key from his own belt. The metal clicked open. The cuffs fell away. Your Honor, I deeply apologize for what happened tonight. Coleman rubbed his wrists. He didn't respond immediately. He simply looked past Hayes toward the corner of the room where Officer Trevor Dawson stood, arms crossed, face drained of color. Their eyes met. Dawson looked away first. Hayes pulled Dawson's personnel file within the hour. What he found wasn't surprising. It was damning. 11 complaints filed against Dawson over 8 years. 7 specifically alleged racial profiling. 4 involved unlawful vehicle stops. 2 mentioned intimidation tactics. 0 had been investigated. 0 had led to discipline. Every single one had been filed away, marked insufficient evidence, and forgotten. 67% of the vehicles Dawson pulled over were flagged under the reason suspicious behavior. None of those reports defined what that behavior actually was. The pattern wasn't hidden. It was ignored. 36 hours after Coleman walked out of Brookside Station, a witness video appeared on Facebook. 400,000 views in 6 hours. Local news picked it up by evening, then state outlets, then national. By the end of the second day, the footage had been viewed 1.8 million times. The hashtag Judge Coleman case trended in 12 states. Civil rights organizations issued statements. Legal analysts dissected the stop frame by frame on cable news. Former officers called it textbook misconduct. The body cam that activated 4 minutes late became Exhibit A. The witness phones became Exhibits B through E. The gas station security footage became the indisputable timeline no lawyer could challenge. Every angle, every word, every second Dawson thought he controlled. All of it now public record. Time. The department moved quickly. Day 4, Dawson suspended without pay pending investigation. Day 7, Internal Affairs opened a formal inquiry into use of force, unlawful detention, and failure to follow protocol. Day 12, the district attorney filed criminal charges. 3 counts: false arrest, deprivation of rights under color of law, falsifying a police report. Each charge carried a maximum sentence of 10 years. Dawson hired a defense attorney the next morning. Sharnem. The breaking point came during the internal affairs hearing. Officer Kyle Mills sat across from the review board, hands folded on the table, his voice steady but quiet. I told him to verify the registration. He refused. I told him the ID looked legitimate. He said it could be fake. I suggested we call a supervisor. He told me to back off. The lead investigator leaned forward. And the body cam footage confirms this, Mills nodded. Every word. The blue wall for once cracked. Not because Mills wanted to be a hero, but because staying silent meant becoming complicit in something he knew was wrong. And the cameras had already told the truth. His testimony sealed it. 3 months later, the city settled Coleman's lawsuit. $11.5 million, the largest police misconduct settlement in state history. The announcement came on a Tuesday afternoon. No trial, no drawn-out legal battle, just a quiet press release acknowledging what everyone already knew. Officer Trevor Dawson had violated the constitutional rights of a Superior Court judge at a gas station, ignored multiple warnings, doubled down when confronted with evidence, and destroyed his own career in under 30 minutes. The body cam he activated 4 minutes too late became the proof he couldn't erase. The 11 complaints he thought didn't matter became the pattern he couldn't deny. The witness footage he tried to ignore became the public pressure the department couldn't withstand. Every loop closed, every mistake documented, every consequence earned. Dawson was sentenced 4 months after the settlement, 5 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. The judge who handed down the sentence wasn't Marcus Coleman. Coleman had recused himself from anything involving the case. But the words spoken from the bench could have been his. You weaponized your badge. You targeted a man based on assumptions, not evidence. And when confronted with the truth, you chose arrogance over accountability. Dawson stood silently as the sentence was read. No appeal was filed. So here's the question. 5 years in prison and $11.5 million paid by the city. Does the punishment fit the crime? Comment below and let us know what you think. Because this wasn't just about one officer. It was about a system that ignored 11 complaints, enabled 67% of stops without clear cause, and let bias hide behind a badge until a camera refused to blink. 8 months later, the federal trial began. The evidence was overwhelming. 3 camera angles from the WOW station. Body cam footage that started 4 minutes late. Dash cam video from Dawson's patrol car. 7 civilian witnesses. Dispatch recordings showing no stolen vehicle report ever existed. Dawson's defense attorney stood before the jury and called it a mistake. My client made an error in judgment. He acted on instinct, on training, on years of experience in a high-crime area. This was not malicious. This was human error. The prosecutor rose slowly, letting the silence settle before speaking. 11 complaints, 7 alleging racial profiling, 0 investigations. 67% of his stops marked suspicious with no definition of what that meant. This wasn't one mistake. This was 11 documented mistakes over 8 years, and this time it had consequences. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Before sentencing, the court allowed victim impact statements. Judge Marcus Coleman walked to the stand. No robe, no title announced. Just a man who'd been handcuffed at a gas pump for the crime of owning a car. He looked directly at Dawson. 7 years ago, my nephew Darius was pulled over at a gas station not far from where you stopped about me. He was 19. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He didn't have a judge, you mind for an uncle? He didn't have a body cam recording what happened. He didn't have witnesses with phones. He didn't have any of the protections I had that night. Coleman's voice didn't waver. It didn't rise. It simply carried the weight of 7 years of unanswered questions. Darius didn't make it home. There was no footage, no accountability, no justice. Just a mother burying her son and a system that shrugged and moved on. He paused. The courtroom was silent. Not a cough, not a shuffle, just stillness. I wear this badge, not for myself, but so the next black man at a gas pump has a chance. A chance you tried to take from me. A chance my nephew never had. Coleman stepped down. The room stayed silent for a full 10 seconds. The presiding judge delivered the sentence 2 days later. Mr. Dawson, you were given a badge to protect and serve. You used it as a weapon. You targeted a man not based on evidence, but on assumption. And when confronted with the truth, you chose defiance over decency. You didn't just violate his rights. You weaponized your authority against the very Constitution you swore to defend. 5 years, federal prison, no parole. The gavel fell. But the story didn't end there. Within 6 months, North Carolina passed the Coleman Act. Every officer in the state was now required to activate their body cam within 10 seconds of any civilian contact. Failure to comply carried a $10,000 fine and automatic suspension pending review. 4 other states adopted similar legislation within the year. Brookside Police Department underwent a complete overhaul. 100% of officers retrained. 3 supervisors demoted. A new citizen oversight board established with subpoena power. The gas station on Highway 27 installed a memorial plaque near Pump 4, not for Coleman, for Darius, and for every person who'd stood in that same position without a camera to tell their story. Judge Marcus Coleman returned to the bench 3 months after the trial. Since then, he's presided over 340 cases. He donated $8 million from the settlement to fund body cam programs in 15 rural counties that couldn't afford them. The remaining $3.5 million went to the Darius Coleman Memorial Scholarship, which has funded 47 students pursuing degrees in criminal justice, civil rights law, and social work. Coleman doesn't talk about the case often. When asked, he keeps it simple. I wasn't looking for a fight that night. I was filling my tank. But when the fight came, I had 3 things that saved me: knowledge of my rights cameras that wouldn't blink, and the memory of my nephew that wouldn't let me stay silent. He paused, then added one final thought. Darius didn't have those things, but because of what happened to me, maybe the next person will. If you believe body cam mandates should be required in all 50 states, hit the like button. If you believe stories like this need to be told, subscribe to this channel, because justice doesn't happen in the dark. It happens when someone refuses to look away, when cameras keep rolling, when witnesses speak up, and when one person says, "Not this time, not again." You just became a witness to the story. What you do with that matters.